I have owned every iPad since its launch. Right away, I found use cases like digital sheet music, reading, and things that were great for a tablet device. I still have this iPad 2 that survived 3 children, and I can prove it with that disgusting 30-pin connector right there. But I've also been editing podcasts for over 7 years exclusively on iPad Pro. I've had Macs that entire time, I have Logic Pro 10, but when it comes to editing podcasts, I find the iPad with Apple Pencil is the best for me. And this new 11-inch M4 iPad Pro feels like the final form of iPad. It's the thinnest and lightest iPad to date, the new Magic Keyboard feels incredible, and the new Apple Pencil Pro allows me to edit those podcasts incredibly fast. So yes, I think this is the perfect iPad, but it might not be for you. You might be hearing a lot of reviews out there talking about how the software is hamstrung or Apple should just let it run macOS. And I can understand those perspectives, but when you use the iPad as a tablet device, which is still what it is at its core, I find this M4 iPad Pro to be incredible just as it is. And the number one reason for that is the form factor. Yes, this might look like a laptop when you attach it to the Magic Keyboard, especially if you have the 13-inch model, but the form factor of a tablet, meaning I can actually take it off and hold it, makes a massive difference in several use cases. Like I mentioned, I edit podcasts on iPad every single day, and I've been doing it for over 7 years. And this form factor, namely a tablet with Apple Pencil, is what makes that process extremely fast for me. This was me editing the latest episode of Primary Technology. If you want to hear what it sounds like after I edit it exclusively on iPad and export it from iPad, you can find links to the podcast down in the description. But I can edit about an hour-and-a-half podcast in 20 to 25 minutes. I'm listening at 2x speed using the incredible app Ferrite, which has been out since 2015. And while I have Logic Pro 10 and lots of other applications that can do this task on a Mac, doing it with this form factor, with these tools, makes all the difference. Now, some people might say, well, they should just make a touchscreen Mac that works with Apple Pencil. Yeah, I guess that'll work, but this is kind of heavy, and what is this? Then maybe the argument is, well, make a touchscreen MacBook Pro where the screen can detach, but runs an operating system that's better for touch. Well, it's funny you should say that, because Apple makes an incredible product with a detachable touchscreen and an operating system really optimized for touch. Another argument I hear is, well, the new iPad Pro is just so expensive and you can do everything on this iPad that you could on the iPad mini or the base model iPad. And to be honest, you're absolutely right. I've been editing Primary Technology on this iPad mini for the last 7 months, and it was a similar process to this M4 iPad Pro. So what am I getting when I spend more money? Well, one of the biggest differences with the new M4 iPad Pro versus older models is this Tandem OLED display. Not only does it have ProMotion, which is exclusively available on the iPad Pro, not even the iPad Air has that, but the new Tandem OLED is incredibly bright, makes editing outside or doing anything outside way easier. And for my use case, which is editing podcasts, ProMotion and this display actually makes a big difference. And I'm often letting it play in real time and editing it. So I'll go back and forth, edit certain things with the Apple Pencil, and having the ProMotion display with that higher refresh rate allows me to see more of the waveforms as I'm moving side to side. Again, this is me actually editing a podcast, listening at 2x speed, and this ProMotion makes all the difference.
Similar to WWDC, it's focused on developers. Remember is that app package the story differently, right? They package the story for a wider audience in that keynote.
When I was editing podcasts on the iPad mini, while it's plenty capable, those waveforms would get super blurry as I'm trying to scroll back and forth and listen back. So ProMotion makes a big difference with the iPad Pro. I'll get back to the podcasting in a second, but another use case which I've used iPad since the original is digital sheet music. Now, even more people will say, that's literally just displaying a PDF. Why do you need an iPad, let alone an iPad Pro for that? Again, form factor matters, and as you can see, precariously putting a MacBook Pro on a music stand is not really tenable. The iPad, again, is an ideal form factor for digital sheet music. Now, the new 13-inch iPad Air is probably an ideal device for this for most people. You can still use it with Apple Pencil Pro, which is important for annotations and sheet music, and you get that bigger screen, which is the other key aspect when using digital sheet music. But the iPad Pro has some hardware advantages for that as well. I find the best app for digital sheet music is the forScore app. Again, I've been using it since launch. And having a super high-resolution display with great brightness is really key, especially if you're trying to tell a natural from a sharp in the sheet music, whether it's piano music or flute, which my wife is a professional flutist and uses a 12.9-inch iPad Pro and will literally perform from it with a Bluetooth foot pedal to change those pages. And the forScore app has this incredible feature where you can actually wink and it will change the pages, so you don't need to have a Bluetooth foot pedal or even touch the screen. I can go up here to the settings and you'll see the face gestures, which can also include a mouth movement or head nod. Now watch this. I can literally just look at the iPad and wink, and it will change the pages for me without having to touch the screen. Can you just display a PDF sheet music on the iPad Air or let alone base model iPad? Absolutely, and if that's in your budget, it's great that you can do it on those devices. But if you want a nicer experience or just more features that make your work a little easier, or because that ProMotion display I can see an in a waveform a little clearer and then I can edit it with the Apple Pencil, then maybe the new M4 iPad Pro would be worth it. Now, one of the reasons so many people think the iPad Pro should just be more like a Mac is because it has an M4 chip, which is more powerful than the chip currently in the MacBook Air. So technically, this iPad is more powerful than the base laptop that Apple sells. But a powerful chip is not only great for powerful tasks, like you can run Final Cut on an iPad Pro and the new multicam feature looks incredible, will take advantage of some of that real-time processing. Having a more powerful chip also helps with efficiency, and that's something I notice when I'm editing podcasts. I see that battery drain as I'm editing hours and hours of podcasts because Ferrite is running real-time effects. When I go in here, I add equalizer, compressor, noise gate, and sometimes voice isolation, which is an incredible plugin from Apple for background noise and removing echo. And as I am editing, it's applying those effects in real time. That's hitting the processor, and with the M4, I will get better battery life because of that powerful processor. Can this 3-year-old iPad mini do the same thing? Absolutely. But battery life takes a hit and exporting is slower. For instance, let's export this iPad recap episode. This is the M4 iPad Pro versus my iPad mini. And one of the things it's doing now is applying that voice isolation to one of the tracks. My co-host Jason Aten was in a more echoey environment, and it makes a big difference. And as you can see, the M4 iPad Pro is ready to go, and the iPad mini is still struggling with that voice isolation on a track. Now, other iPad Pros like the M1 or M2 will be closer to the M4 performance, but this is going to be the fastest, and saving a few minutes every day over several years can be worth it if this is one of your main tasks. Let's talk about the Magic Keyboard. I used the Magic Keyboard with my previous iPad Pros since this came out also, and the new Magic Keyboard is vastly improved. Not only is it thinner and lighter, which makes it way better to carry around, not only is typing on this just as nice as the last Magic Keyboard, but it has the new aluminum palm rest, which feels great, and a new haptic trackpad. It's slightly larger than previous models and feels great to click. It's funny, if you take the iPad off the Magic Keyboard, this does nothing because it's not a physical depressing trackpad anymore, it's just haptic. Kind of like when you turn off your MacBook Pro and the trackpad doesn't click anymore. Now, I went with the 11-inch because most of my use cases is using iPad as a tablet, like I mentioned. Now, you get all the same keys as the larger 13-inch Magic Keyboard for the new iPad Pro, but if you compare it to the 13-inch, you get a full-size tab button, full-size caps lock, the shift buttons are larger. So if typing is really important to you, the 13-inch Magic Keyboard might offer a better experience. Just in my few days of using this Magic Keyboard, the half-size bracket and slash buttons up here, sometimes I miss those, and the half-size tab button's a little small, but typing on iPad is not my primary use case, so this is great for just when I'm on the go or want to use it to do some administrative tasks. But I have to say, the function row of keys on the new Magic Keyboard, huge quality of life improvement. Just being able to adjust the brightness of the screen using these buttons and volume here, that alone makes the function row worth it. Oh, before everybody yells at me for my Apple Pencil direction. There, I'm giving it a week. I'll see if I get used to it. You also get that additional USB-C port with the new Magic Keyboard, and this provides faster charging than the old model. Now, one of the only negatives I have about the new Magic Keyboard is it can be a little hard to open sometimes. You do need 2 hands to make sure you split that open. And if you have an Apple Pencil on here, it kind of makes it even harder because there's just less to grab. I'm getting used to it, but it'd be nice if there was like a little notch like a MacBook Pro or some other thing you can grab onto. And by the way, WaterField sent me this new Shinjuku messenger bag specifically for iPad. I love everything WaterField makes. I get no affiliate commission if you buy it. It's just a great bag, and I'll talk about it more in an accessory roundup for iPad Pro, so be sure to subscribe to the channel. I also got it with the new Apple Pencil Pro, and just like the old Apple Pencil, it works great, especially for editing podcasts. I use this grip from PaperLike, and I can still do the haptic squeeze gesture with the Apple Pencil. Now, one of the cool things you can do is actually program that squeeze gesture to a shortcut. So I can go here, choose the shortcut option, and if I want to maybe run the shortcut that opens my iCloud passwords, I can do that. So wherever I am in my iPad, I can squeeze the Apple Pencil Pro, and it literally jumps to iCloud passwords and settings. And I can run any other of my hundreds of shortcuts, which, by the way, I have a bunch of shortcut videos. I'll link them above and a playlist in the description if you're just getting started or want to learn some advanced automations. But unfortunately, if I have that programmed to a shortcut, then using a third-party app that actually has specific squeeze gestures, the shortcut overrides that setting. So I actually keep it on one of the stock Apple Pencil settings, not a shortcut. And in Ferrite, the app that I use to edit, in an upcoming version of the app, you'll be able to set that squeeze gesture in addition to the double tap to whatever you'd like. And I've been testing out the insert chapter and title action for the squeeze gesture. This way, when I'm editing a podcast and I want to insert a chapter real quick, I can just squeeze the pencil, title the chapter, and I'm good to go. I'm not sure what I'm going to land on using it long term, but awesome that Ferrite is going to be supporting that really soon. I know one of the other use cases M4 iPad Pro is really going to shine is for artists and those who use things like Procreate, and the Apple Pencil Pro has other great gestures like that barrel roll in addition to the squeeze. Now, I'm not an artist, but I do have a friend who's an artist. He's an incredible 3D chalk artist, Nate Baranowski. You should totally check him out. I'll put a link to his Instagram below, but he was considering replacing his Wacom Cintiq with maybe an iPad Pro and Apple Pencil. So I'll try to get some thoughts from him and let you know. Now, I said I would identify with those who want something like macOS or a more powerful operating system on the iPad Pro. I get it. There are some things even that I would like. For instance, recording podcasts on iPad is a challenge because there's no choose the audio input or output device, choosing different devices and hard coding that in the settings. And I would love for apps like Audio Hijack, which I love on the Mac, to run on the iPad so I can record in the background or record from multiple sources. But that being said, if I wanted to record a podcast on the new iPad Pro, I can actually connect a USB microphone like this Shure MV7 Plus, plug it in, and Ferrite immediately recognizes that USB mic, and I can record high quality audio right here. I can record a solo podcast right here in Ferrite, edit it all right here, and publish it. Or if I want to record a podcast with a remote guest, you can use the Riverside app with a USB microphone like this, and I can record myself, high quality video and audio, plus the microphone, and I'm doing a video podcast with remote people right here on my iPad. And ever since iPadOS 17, you could do powerful things like connect a webcam to either FaceTime or the built-in camera, and the iPad will recognize that video feed, and then it'll use that webcam right here. And you can even do things like use a USB-C hub. Maybe you want to charge your iPad and use that USB mic? Well, a hub allows for that, and you can plug in Ethernet and even an HDMI out display. Another powerful use case is using an app like Orion, which sometimes when I'm filming myself on iPhone, I want to use the rear camera for the high-quality ProRes video, but preview the camera and what I'm seeing. Well, I can use the Orion app and an HDMI capture device to see my iPhone screen on my iPad screen. You can also use that to plug in a Switch or game system when you're on the go. And so maybe that 13-inch size screen would be even better for you. And I know every time someone mentions shortcuts in iPad, people get mad because you shouldn't have to write software to make it work. So I won't even mention more shortcuts. But if you're interested, again, check out my shortcuts videos down in the description because this gets even more powerful when you make those. So for my use, namely editing podcasts, digital sheet music, and occasionally reading and doing other tablet or even light computer things, the M4 iPad Pro is pretty perfect. And some people might say, well, it's way too expensive just for one or two use cases. But I would say there's lots of devices that people buy that are expensive, but are great at those one or two things. Like if you do want a Wacom Cintiq, you might spend $3,500 on a device for a very specific kind of task. And you can record a podcast with a $50 USB mic, and that's a great value. But if you want to sound a little better or nicer, you might spend $700 on a single purpose device, namely a mic. And to be fair, unless you have one of these use cases that really take advantage of the ProMotion, the Tandem OLED, Apple Pencil Pro, maybe the iPad Pro isn't for you, but the iPad Air is another great option, especially now that it comes in the 13-inch size. Or if you literally just want basic computing tasks with a simple operating system that you don't have to worry about malware and viruses, the base model iPad is also great and is only $350. The iPad is not a computer for everyone. It is a computer for some. My mom actually uses a 12.9-inch iPad Pro as her main computing device. She doesn't have another Mac in her house, and it works great for her. I use the iPad Pro for editing podcasts and sheet music, but I still have my Mac Studio when I want to record content or live stream, editing in Final Cut. The Mac is better for that. And I have my MacBook Pro if I need to edit video on the go or do other powerful tasks. And while I can edit podcasts and load PDFs on those devices too, the form factor of iPad with the features of the M4 iPad Pro, like ProMotion, the Tandem OLED, makes this device an incredible tool for my use cases. And no, I don't think the iPad should run macOS, and if you're considering the iPad Pro, really do consider your use case. Will you take advantage of those features, or should you get an iPad Air? But for me, for my use cases, the iPad Pro is pretty perfect. If you have any questions on the new M4 iPad Pro, leave comments below this video. I'd love to answer you there. Again, I'll have my shortcuts videos linked down there, and I'll put one of them right up here. And I'm going to be doing a review on the Magic Keyboard versus the Logitech Combo Touch, which I did in the previous versions, but I got more coming up, plus iPad accessories. So make sure to subscribe to the channel before you go, and I'll put another video right up here that YouTube thinks you'll really love. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.